Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast for the Light View with me, Chris Fordham, where in this Light Creators series we discover this small lighting brand making big waves using a collection of craft workers to produce products that, well, they're just a little bit different. I think I could best sum them up by quoting the streets, not bestsellers, but more cult classics, which is a bit cooler, right, Domenico? I mean, that's got to be the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So when we last met at Clerkenwell Design Week, I was really impressed by your passion. I mean, obviously you're Italian, but that doesn't negate the fact that you've got products to talk about. But it was really what came across is your passion for the well-made lighting products, and the backstory seemed quite an interesting one, which you touched on. But so, how did you start out on this lighting odyssey?
Yeah, I mean, my lighting background goes back 20, showing my age now, but 25 years plus. Days of high-tech lighting in the 80s, who were the forefront of low voltage lighting, and I started my working career more or less there in the drafting department, and then on to custom specials very quickly. So that was where my passion for lighting really started. And then subsequently, last 20 years of being an agent for various Italian manufacturers, amongst which a couple of lighting ones, I kind of lost that passion for actually hands-on design and engineering of product. It was more a selling role. It has been a selling role, but in the last 2, 3 years, that really came back, and I missed what I was doing. What I used to be doing was creating custom lighting. So that's where it all comes from, basically.
I remember you were saying about the name of the company, and that really interested me as well.
Yeah, yeah. That yes, but the surname I have, Scognamiglio, is not the easiest to pronounce, and there was a bit of kind of history in that with my father because I looked in doing what I was doing, I was trying to create a name for it, and I didn't like to just use my name. But I looked at the inspiration behind it all ultimately, which I kind of, it was there in the background, but I'd never really thought about it. So, as we were discussing earlier, my experience has been hands-on with my father. He was a railway engineer, and we did everything. We made things. We maintained cars. We built garages. We did everything. So all my engineering experience, hands-on experience, was with my father, and it was interesting because he with the surname Giuseppe Scognamiglio, in British Railways where he used to work, again wasn't the easiest name to pronounce. So all his tools were marked with either Joe or Scog. So I thought that's a nice way of remembering, and a little nod to him. And I in fact found on our website, you'll see one of his toolboxes with scratched on. I think, I can't remember, it's Joe or Scog. And I still have tools that have his
Oh,
initials.
that's lovely, isn't it?
So that's quite sort of dear to me, and it sort of it's a nod to the past and what I learned from my dad.
You mentioned frequently in the past how important it is for you that it's a British-made brand with good sustainable credentials. How difficult has it been to be close to those
Yeah.
wishes, if you want? And have you made a rod for your own back? Because I guess it requires so many compromises, and where do they come into play, these compromises? I mean, what's
Yeah,
the
so
biggest thing?
so it is difficult because whilst I have Italian background, I've worked with some amazing Italian brands, and nobody does it better when it comes to mass-produced product mainly. Their support, their photography, the quality of the work. So trying to reproduce that in the UK is almost impossible. You're not gonna compete with the Italians and the Europeans, I don't think, at that level. So I look back at what do we do best? What did I used to do best? And that was utilising very skilled belt and braces British engineering, skilled engineers that I would visit their factories and workshops around North London and the East, you would find really skilled craftsmen, engineers who know what they're doing, do it very well, but didn't really have the platform to show that, or don't show that off. So that's what I'm doing. Is I'm utilising. It's not easy, and I'm utilising the fact that we can make stuff to order. We don't have. We're not designing to mass produce. And that's what I'm very conscious of, the idea of sustainability as well. But also, I'm not going to compete with the big Italian boys, and so I'm doing something which is very close to my heart, and it's utilising what I know, which is British engineering, British workshops.
That really rings a bell with me because I remember going. It was at the heyday. I think it's just towards the end of the heyday of Clerkenwell workshops, and my
Mhm.
friend had I think it was called Temple Works or something. He had a business there, and it was just the whole place was rammed full of these one man band engineers that would do anything. They were so talented, and yet they didn't really have a way to express their talent because everyone was just going there for them to, I don't know, can you fix my kettle or some crap like that, which
Yeah.
isn't right what they probably want to do. But they would just, I think probably nowadays it would just, I don't know, it doesn't really exist anymore. That type of engineer in a small space. It's certainly less than it was in the past, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There are specialists around, but they are quite hidden. You have to really seek them out. And even with some leisure activity, we do go karting, and I've got to know a team of guys that can braze, and their skill is amazing, but they've never applied it to anything else, just to go kart frames. And you look at the skill sometimes, say, actually, you could be of use to me in building this particular product which needs bronze brazing. So that's how you find, by sometimes going out of your comfort zone, or your circle of your sector of the industry, and going elsewhere and finding other things, and then making them aware that they could be useful to you as well, not just in the work that they know and do normally.
You're like a design collective, aren't you? You're the
Yeah.
gel that holds them all together.
Yes, yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, in a very small way. But yeah, for example, my turn parts come from a retired engineer down in Kent. I've got a carpenter who does joinery and other stuff, but the wooden arms to one of our chandeliers is done by him, and he's fascinated by what I'm doing with his work. He would never associate his work with lighting, because he makes doors and cabinetry. So that's it's good to let them know that their skills can be used more widely.
That's really interesting. Actually, it was a question that I asked before about where do the compromises come? Because what you're doing, it isn't a mass produced product, and it is like the streets. I don't know if you ever listened to the streets, but one of the things he said is it's not mass produced but cult classic, and
Yeah.
that's true. What you're doing, I mean, I guess that's what you should aim for, really, right? For your products, because they're never going to be mass-produced products. They're just going to
No,
be something that'd be like, wouldn't it be cool if someone picked up and say, that's a Joe Scog, that is.
absolutely, yeah, that would be, and it's never gonna, like I said before, it's never gonna, we're never gonna compete with the big boys, and I'm not interested in reducing, or making products in China or the Far East, just for the sake of getting prices down, because I'm never going to be in that position. That the idea is to make to order. It comes at a price, obviously, but you've then got something which is, and it's not just the catchphrase. It's unique, and there's only one. The fact is, it is truly something which has been made specifically for that person. At the moment, I'm doing a chandelier which is made for that person. It's going to be in a particular material and finish, and I probably won't do that again. Even though it's a variation on our standard product, it's unique to that person. So it is a one off.
It sounds like a labour of love. And actually, I spoke to one of your potential customers, and he described the way that you packaged up your products, and it made me laugh because it just when you go to Italy and you see the way they, if you go down to Greg's and you get yourself a cake, it's a lump, isn't it? It's a lump of lard with a bit of icing sugar on. And you go to Italy and you say I want a cake, and they dress it up like you're going to
Dress it
get
up.
married in it, and it's crazy. And I think maybe that's when they saw your product and how it arrived. I think that's where maybe subliminally you got the idea from, because they
It's
just described it as a gift almost.
Yeah, no, but I think it's how it should be because I was always, excuse me, I was always very frustrated by the fact that some of the brands that I was represented as a salesperson were selling very expensive lighting, but packaging it not poorly because it would arrive intact, but it's just another cardboard box, lots of polystyrene chippings or foam, and yeah, to use an analogy, you buy, and these were other details that I decided to add into the packaging. For example, I try to crate almost everything. Be it a small table lamp, I'm making specifically wooden crates to put them in, or a large chandelier. It's fixed within a crate, and I'm using hemp, natural grown hemp from Yorkshire to pad out, so no polystyrene, no plastics, not even recycled paper, but also little details which I really found frustrating that the big brands were missing out on was the instructions and the idea of receiving something of value. You buy a Mercedes, you get the supporting package. You get a manual, leather bound with all the details of the car and the specification inside the car. There's no reason why a product of value should have a poorly translated photocopy of an instruction leaflet. So what I do is I include a product manual, which is like a menu. It's bound. It has the reason why the product was designed in the first place, which is the ultimate thing. It's not just another Me Too globe or task lamp. There's a reason why that product exists, and that's in your manual. That tells you why the product exists. It tells you how it's made, the specification, the full details of the materials involved, and even where they were produced. So my metal worker, my finishers, they're all listed in the manual, down to the details which are probably the most important from an electrician's point of view, which is not always nowadays forgotten, but kind of brushed over as, yeah, they'll know what to do. How they, with images which I took from my past, in terms of instructing someone how to assemble and disassemble something. I used to use the Haynes manuals. You probably know for your escorts, and so the Haynes manual was a
Yes.
brilliant way of understanding how something, with photographs, with diagrams, and with description, how you dismantle and reassemble something. And that's what I use as a basis for my instruction leaflet. I have an image, I have an instruction, I have a diagrammatic showing your hand position, how you should be holding something, and that helps to really understand how you should be installing the product, changing the lamp, and that's all part of our product manual, which is an important thing that, again, as a representative, I used to find was selling product, and then a week later the product's delivered, and the FF&E or the facilities manager is asking you, can we have a care and maintenance manual? And you're scraping around to find an instruction leaflet from the company in Italy or Spain to address that. This is all there. It's bound, and it's personal to that product. And I think it's the way it should be if you're spending a lot of money on a decent product.
Well, I think that's testament to yourself, really, because that's exactly what people want. A story, don't they? A storyline. And if you're not going to buy products of commodity type, then you really
Yeah.
need to expect that little bit more. And hopefully, I really hope that the work that you put in comes off, because obviously that's the way things should be, because it should be a product for life, right? Just finally, if you want to wrap it up after this, we wrap it up.
Mhm.
Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to do something similar to yourself?
Oh,
Or would you say just don't do it? It's just too much hard work. It has to be a labor of love for something, doesn't it? You really want to have, there has to be something different to make you want to
yeah.
do it, I think.
Yeah, I think it is difficult. I don't know if there are lots of people with lots of talent out there, and what I would say is that don't be don't be put off by the fact that there are designers out there who are justified in being at the top and being recognised. And not saying anybody can be a designer. I always hold back from saying I'm a designer. I'm not a designer. I'm an engineer by trade. And what I want to do is celebrate the engineers and the craftspeople behind my products. I facilitate that. I bring it all together mechanically, engineering wise, but the people that should be celebrated are the engineers and the craftspeople. So if you do have an idea, if you do want to do something, utilize the people that are best skilled at that, and don't be afraid to go out with a product because. I get this imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm not, but it's true.
Don't we
I'm
all?
embarrassed, but there shouldn't be embarrassment because you see sometimes designers putting their names to products and they don't even know how the product's gone together, or maybe I shouldn't be saying that and dissing the designers, but there is an element of it's gone a bit too far with the signed by such and such products that manufacturers are producing, and not real understanding of what the need is in the first place. And product born of a need, that's what I'm about. Product born of a need or request. That's what it should be in this world.
That's an excellent way to finish. So, Dom, thanks for
Thank
your
you.
time. Domenico, grazie mille.
That's it.
And thanks for you all for tuning in. Be sure to share and like this. We're here for you, so don't forget
Thank you very
that.
much. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.